The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution and Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amber TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amber TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team. The Amber War Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort? While our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front?
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia die as a wish because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Tuesday is always a moment Ambazonians look forward to receiving the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, PhD, because it's not just about communicating, but about talking policy, government's position on vital issues, bringing Ambazonians closer to the direction where they are headed. A lot has happened this week already, one of which is a U.S. diplomat hosting Yaoundé who made utterances that are out of place vis-a-vis the ongoing war in Amazonia, probably due to misinformation or possible compromise. While Amazonia being vexed by this have reacted in diverse ways, his statements despises the ongoing genocide in Amazonia. There is also an aspect of schools that was part of his statement, and we had Prof. B. Pote, Secretary of State for Education, give us the interim government's position on schools resumption. More reason why Ambazonians hope to have Dr. Martin Mungwa during the State of Liberations tonight to elaborate on this and a very important topic, why La République du Cameroon recycles the master plan to enhance cultural genocide in Ambazonia. In tonight's Undaunted, we're going to get into some vital element of the president's speech of Saturday and reasons why Ngwaketunja is a success today. There is a whole lot we're going to talk about in tonight's Undaunted. I know you can't wait, but first, let's get the prime headline.
These are the prime headlines for today, August 30th, 2022. Idenu, now part of Limbe DC Port, is the first story we'll be giving to you today. Also, TIC sector in agony. Also today, we'll be bringing Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE, and his topic for discussion today will be why La République du Cameroon recycles the master plan to enhance cultural genocide in Ambazonia. While also today we have a follow-up story on activities in Bangui grounded to a halt after the colonial DO sealed some shop last Monday. Also today, traders in solidarity have also closed all their shops. Today, we will be bringing the analysis on the presidential speech that we missed yesterday. Of course, it is a rollover from yesterday's story. And in sports, Lucas Paqueta, West Ham signed Lyon and Brazil midfielder for club record free. The ongoing war in the southern Cameroon's Amazonia has still affecting the economy of this region. The effects of the war can be observed individually as well as it is on institutional levels. Individually speaking, people's houses has been burnt down, businesses looted, shops burnt down, vehicles set ablaze, and so many others. I mean, the list is inexhaustible. Considering the consequences of the war on institutions, some institutions have shut down completely. Others have retrenched workers, thereby reducing their production capacity, and some have had their properties destroyed, with some workers even killed. With all of these devastating consequences, the colonial regime ruler of La République du Cameroun, Paul Biya, is still adamant to take a genuine and inconclusive dialogue as an option to resolve the ongoing crisis. Is the colonial ruler Paul Biya really interested in seeing the war in southern Cameroon come to an end? His constant deployment of the colonial military to southern Cameroon's Amazonia gives a perfect answer to the above question. Welcome to Undaunted Tonight. This is where we'll begin. I am Onyi Obalance. Smart is here as always. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Onyi. The colonial regime of Paul Biya keeps sealed lips over the cry of thousands of workers of the tea sector in southern Cameroon. The tea sector is one of the sectors greatly affected by the ongoing war in southern Cameroon's Amazonia as a result of this war declared by colonial ruler Paul Biya on the peoples of southern Cameroon's Amazonia in 2017. Workers of the sectors foresee doom in the days ahead. The workers are appealing to the colonial ruler Biya to rescue the tea sector that is at the verge of collapsing, a request that the colonial ruler Biya is not moved with. Prior to the ongoing crisis in southern Cameroon's Amazonia, the tea industry produced substantially 1,600 tons annually on the more than 1,500 hectares of land that it occupies, and it has drastically dropped, and the industry is increasingly giving up everything in its production bases. Ndu and Ndawara estates, a major tea cultivation hub in both southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroun, are on the verge of collapsing as well. It is these main production basins that the tea is picked and processed on site. Officials of the tea estates and other stakeholders in the tea sector are increasingly expressing worries that the sector is being sidelined in the so-called plan to reconstruct and develop affected sectors in southern Cameroon. Those who hold this opinion are basing their arguments on the disturbing and recent controversial declarations of the colonial national coordinator of the presidential plan for the said reconstruction of southern Cameroon's Paul Tassong. The colonial Tassong had, speaking at the recent follow-up committee of the road covered so far by the so-called reconstruction plan, claimed, he says, "We noticed that the production of tea has dropped, but it is not as a result of the crisis. It is just because the tea production company is having its own internal structural issues, which does not permit it to continue to perform."
The Cameroon tea plantation. Now, it should be recalled that were taken over in 2002, I beg your pardon, from the Colonial Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, by the Colonial Cameroon Tea Estate, a private company belonging to Baba Amadou Don Polo.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless. the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
A decision 99/133 of June 1999 established the autonomous port of Limbe, and in 2009 feasibility studies were completed. Since 2009 that feasibility studies were completed, it was only on August 16th, 2022 that the colonial government of Pobia, through the colonial minister of state property, surveys and land tenure, Henry Ayebe Ayisi, signed an order to fix and secure the boundaries of the port. It's hard to understand why the colonial regime of Pobia will stay mute for over 23 years since the autonomous port of Limbe was created without putting in place what it takes to render the port operational. This can only be a move by the colonial La République du Cameroon to cripple the economy of southern Cameroon, considering the impact of the ports to the economy of if it goes operational. If not, why is it till date no work has begun in the Limbe Deep Sea port since 2009 after feasibility studies were completed? It seems to be an intended scheme by La République du Cameroon to handicap the development of southern Cameroon.
Now, the Idenu port is now part of the Limbe Deep Sea Port Complex with terminals from Idenu to Tiko. Limbe is one of the equatorial states of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. The Colonial Minister of State Property, Surveys and Land Tenure, Mr. Henry Ayebe Ayisi, on August 6, 2022, signed a ministerial order number 1745, declaring as public utility service works to be fixed and secure the boundary limits of sites necessary for the development of port activity. The Limbe Deep Sea port sites concerned by the ministerial order are Down Beach, Boulter, Ngeme, Cape Limbo, Sonora National Shipyard, Isongo, Ideno, and Tiko. These sites are all situated in Fako County of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Article 7 of Colonial Yibe's ministerial order clearly suspends all land property and real estate transactions, as well as the issuance of building permits on these chosen sites. All private property found on these chosen sites will be expropriated and their owners compensated so as to give the Neo Limbe Deep Sea Port enough land on which to carry out its port activities. A commission presided will be put in place to define the boundaries of the site, identify owners, and submit to the colonial ministers Ayebe Ayisi, who shall prepare files for expropriation and compensation to be signed by in-house slave Prime Minister of La République du Cameroon and after the visa of the colonial head of state.
Now, 6 months ago, there was a split between the Douala port and the Limbe port with the appointment by the Port Authority of Douala, followed by the installation of Director Delegate of the Transitional Administration of the Port Authority of Limbe on Tuesday, March 1, 2022.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
Yesterday, we brought you a report that the people of Mungwa were rallied at their local market called Mbon Market by one of the enemy soldiers called B to threaten them to disobey ghost towns and resume schooling. You should know that the Mbon Market is a popular market around Mungwa. Mungwa is in Mita land and is the capital of Momo County and falls under Menemo local government area.
Yeah, and also yesterday we told you that Mr. Tembu, the Momo defense chief, who also gave the county's perspective Well, today we have some clips to show that activities in Mbengwi grounded to a halt after the Colonial DO sealed some shops. In solidarity, well, traders have also closed all of their shops. Here are some images for you.
Craft, one man is the craft all. Bengwi grounded as a result of yesterday's sealing of stores by the division officer from Bengwi subdivision. Everywhere locked, all businesses locked, market grounded, streets empty, population persons based at home doing one or two things at the level of their various homes. This is not how Bengwi has been before.
All right, and remember that we are still in the draft season, right? Last Saturday was Ngo Kentuja. As usual, the president of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomen-Sako, keeps his speech extremely captivating. Now, let's just look into that speech briefly. Now, the president, Samuel Sako, asked for the whereabouts of Abdul Karim and asked those holding him hostage to let him go. He also emphasized that the reason the Swiss-led process is on hold is also because of that. Now, President Samuel Ikomen-Sako says the spirit of Ambazonia lives in Ngo Kentuja. The president talks about the commitment of Ngo Kentuja, how they have stood firm throughout the phase of the struggle.
Yes, and the president also emphasized that Ngo Kentuja stood out in implanting the Amber Peace Plan that was adopted in Berlin during the ASSC 1. He says Ngo Kentuja is loyal and selfless, truthful and strong. He appreciated Ngo Kentuja leaders and the strategy and the peace plan they have to protect smaller communities. He also thanked F.ASCE for stepping in the stage of the struggle and also asked for more fighters on ground. Let's see this excerpt from the president.
My dear people of the great county of Ngo Kentuja, fellow comrades, we may have our disagreements, but that does not make right wrong and wrong right. Let me be the one today to welcome you all to my home in Ngo Kentuja. For your information, I am son of the soil here. The spirit of Ambazonia runs here. There is resistance running through the veins of the streets of this county. You are a people who have stood firm in your conviction and determination to deliver a free homeland to the next generation. So when we visit Ngo Kentuja County, we come to recharge our revolutionary battery. We go back with reassurance about our resistance and the heroic energy needed to continue this patriotic duty of liberating our homeland. Let us remember the stanza in our revolutionary anthem, allegiance to the heroes for the land with their blood. The Amber Peace Plan blueprint, which we adopted in ASSC 1 in Berlin in 2019, was aimed at mobilizing our community base in a way to galvanize our self-defense endeavors, strengthen the bond between the enabling diaspora and the actors in the home front, and ensuring long-term sustainability of our liberation project. Your kind of commitment and that of your brave sons and daughters in the resistance stand out as measuring rods in our liberation struggle today. You put Ambazonia first, having seen in advance what many are only realizing now. You should be very proud of your patriotism and your good sense of judgment. You chose truth over deceit and manipulation. You, the people of Ngo Kentuja, literally foiled the coup that had a hidden agenda to dismantle the eye of our liberation machine, this IG, and sell its parts to the enemy for 30 pieces of silver. Let me use this opportunity to appreciate the leadership, especially the financial team of Ngo Kentuja County, for their exemplary management skills. We are here today to join you in continuing the solidification of the promises we made as a determined people when we met in Washington. Your courage and dedication are second to none And your patriotic sense of commitment by answering the call to service is the highest sacrifice any citizen of Amazonia can offer this nation. Thank you again. Thank you, Ngoke Tunja.
All right, let's bring you the editorial.
Tonight we have an editorial from an article titled A Battle Station Beyond Common Frontiers, Amazonia Broadcasting Corporation, ABC Amber TV, by Comrade Don Wanobi. ABC Amber TV is an international platform for Amazonia self-expression. ABC Amber TV has been that one safest place of motivation where confidence is ever high. ABC Amber TV is an asset for diplomatic contact and engagement. ABC Amber TV profiles our national ID and public personality of leadership and informs the revolutionary agenda. ABC Amber TV is a battle station for political power play. ABC Amber TV is a launch base and flight path for Amazonian weaponry. ABC Amber TV is the pride host of national political consciousness and collective endowment. ABC Amber TV is that sport where only Amazonia is on the menu. ABC Amber TV is the rallying point and footstool of national unity. ABC Amber TV unites our feelings, beliefs, voices, dreams, and aspirations more than any place on earth. ABC Amber TV is the fortress of Amazonia political ideology and orientation. ABC Amber TV is a fountain of the Amazonian idea. ABC Amber TV is a repository of electronic waves which drive social-political sensation. ABC Amber TV serves as political cost-counting instrument. ABC Amber TV is a media-based platform for cultural exhibitions. ABC Amber TV is a social-political climate center in the Cameroons. ABC Amber TV is an empowerment center for creativity, arts, and entertainment. ABC Amber TV is a vessel for mass media broadcast, telecommunication services, and information technology. ABC Amber TV is the natural medium for the rebirth of hope in the revolution. ABC Amber TV is a platform for national debate and social exchanges. ABC Amber TV is a center for the articulation of solutions to domestic crises and conflict. ABC Amber TV is a public relations platform which remakes the identity and sovereignty of Amazonia. ABC Amber TV offers a national template for social planning, political reorganization, wealth distribution, resource mobilization, and intelligence sharing. ABC Amber TV is the credibility gauge for information, veracity, and authenticity. ABC Amber TV is the place Ambazonians must go to represent the national colors in the authority of their sovereignty claims. ABC Amber TV is a generator of fate, fabricator of passion, breeder of life, maker of history, and fashioner of ideas. ABC Amber TV is now a companion to so many compatriots and a partner to most patriots. Some can imagine the future without ABC Amber TV. Until freedom comes, we stand together. Spectacular, wasn't it? Now that's an absolute definition of ABC Amber TV. If you want more of such articles, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Subscribe, become a club member, and a part of this winning strategy. Find our payment details on your screen. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amber TV.
All right, of course, ABC Amber TV is the center for the articulation of solutions to domestic crisis and conflict. ABC Amber TV is what you want it to be and even more. All right, thank you so much, Star Smart, for that piece of editorial. All right, let's get into our other studio where Mr. Tara is. We have some interviews to run there. I'm sure that Dr. Elad Kizito is there as well. And we have a whole lot to talk about from his angle as from the Foreign Affairs Department. Mr. Tara.
Future of cooperation between Yaoundé and Washington. The interview with the U.S. diplomat will be aired this Sunday at 6 p.m. on the mother channel of the CRTV, 5:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. on CRTV News channel. Charles Ebune has the highlights of the interview in this report.
At least 60,000 Cameroonians are in the United States today, including the plus 16,000 Americans of Cameroonian origin. A solid human resource base for U.S. Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to Cameroon, Christopher John Lamora, to denounce violence in the northwest and southwest regions, especially coming from Cameroonians based in the United States.
I have seen a lot of the videos and I am very troubled by, and we all should be troubled by, videos where people are calling for violence, where people are suggesting that killing students and preventing them from going to school is somehow a valid approach to resolving underlying social concerns. It isn't, and it never will be.
And it is the first broadcast one-on-one interview in Cameroon by the new American diplomat 6 months into the office.
The people in the diaspora, be they in the United States or elsewhere, who have been calling over the past several years for violence need to stop. There's no question about that. Violence is not the answer. People need to have a peaceful conversation. Those who are encouraging attacks on schools, the burning of hospitals, the shooting of people who violate these imposed regulations by the non-state armed groups, those calls for violence just need to stop.
Apart from the situation in the northwest and southwest, the American chief diplomat in Cameroon assessed cooperation in other fields, especially health diplomacy.
Cameroon's on track, actually, to be the first country in West and Central Africa to hit the globally established targets for epidemic control in HIV. And I think that's in large measure because of our cooperation.
He equally hailed the contribution of Cameroonians who have become Americans in the promotion of peace and the image of Cameroon globally.
Dr. Kengasong does good credit to Cameroon and to the United States as a Cameroonian American. Many, many Cameroonian Americans are contributing to our collective growth and development, and he is among the most prominent.
According to Ambassador John Lamora, Yaoundé and Washington are poised in working together to promote peace, human rights, and climate-sensitive energies.
I'm very pleased with the nature of the relationship that we have with Cameroon, but I think it can be stronger.
The United States ambassador to Cameroon also took questions on the Ukraine front line, President Joe Biden's Africa policy, and the new kit supplier for the national football team, One All Sports.
On a rather sad note, friends and colleagues of
Okay, I want to be sure that my sound has been resolved. Once again, good evening. I want to greet Dr. Elat, the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs of the interim government of Amazonia. I would like to also appreciate um, the Secretary of State for Communications and IT for granting us this opportunity pre his outing that starts always at 9 p.m. Amber time to refresh the minds of Amazonians on topical issues. I would like to thank the ladies, the Undaunted. We are intercepting your beautiful news program this evening just because we need to have this discussion. Yesterday, Professor B. Epote, the Secretary of State for Education, spoke a little bit, in fact, elaborately, and gave the interim government's position when it comes to schooling, going back to school. Today we have a man who talks diplomacy, who understands the language better in the end, and he is here to react to the video or the audio message you just listened to. I understand that in the reporting, the excerpts that CRTV has to shown abroad is a spine of the real thing. But Dr. Elat will be bringing to us what is the spine, what is the fact, and what the interim government stand is all about. Good evening. I'll just bring him right away. Good evening, Dr. Elat.
Good evening, Comrade Fadi, and good evening, televiewers. It's my pleasure to be on ABC and to really bring the inspire, as you said, about the interview of the U.S. ambassador in La République du Cameroon, Christopher J. Lamoure. So it's a pleasure to talk about it.
Okay, thank you very much. You just watched, sorry, resets to be done. I'd like to find out, you've just heard what he said, the insinuation he has taken aside. It's like the least he was supposed to do that every sound mind expected, that even if he chooses not to talk on the actuality of what is happening on the ground, we expected that the least would be to stay neutral. But in his statement, it was evident that he was bending and bending east of the Mongol. What do you have to say about that, please?
Yeah, once more, thank you again for having me. In fact, you said it in your monologue, and you rightly put it that the abstract that CRTV is broadcasting around the world is just a minuscule of what he said. In fact, they've just cut that excerpt of what he was talking there and put because it favors them. Notwithstanding, we will use that to also tell them what they don't know. As you rightly say, if he couldn't address what is happening, he should have just sat quiet than taken side. First of all, you hear him mention Cameroonian Americans. So, well, he spoke about Cameroonian Americans and not Amazonian Americans, which means he's still out of the history of
It's out
what
of
is,
touch.
yeah, he's really out of touch of what he's saying or how he refers to people. And secondly, he's talking about having a very good collaboration and could be better with La République du Cameroon. And what he is really emphasizing there in his collaboration and working together is on HIV. And that brings us to who he is. And during the program, I'm going to read a lot of comments that I find here when he was confirmed as ambassador to Cameroon, the reaction from La République du Cameroon people over there towards him. He absolutely lamented on issues that are absolute things that people don't buy, or people don't even. First of all, he talks about people from the diaspora, especially in the USA, sending um, videos. He was asked of the videos that he saw threatening school children and threatening to kill. He forgot to mention the killing of what La République did. I am very sure this guy have absolutely no idea of what has been going on for the past 6 years. For coming for the last 6 months being in La République du Cameroun to tell people that that has to stop immediately. I don't know who he thinks really he is. I would have expected this guy to really lament on issue. Number one, I don't know if Ambazonians really know who is this guy. As we Ambazonians are saying, we are building a nation of trust, harmony, and right to each and every denomination. And wherever, whether you are straight, gay, whoever, you have your right in Amazonia. But this is a gay man who is in a country where gay rights is punishable to death in La République du Cameroun. He doesn't address such issues. He doesn't talk about it. And he comes to talk on Amazonians who are fighting for their legitimate
They are right to
rights.
exist.
He is, I don't know, he was in Boya. I followed up an interview he gave in Boya. And he said, this war, he used the word, this war, or I think conflict cannot be resolved by guns. That was when he was in our capital in Amazonia. I don't know whether he was afraid that if he doesn't use the right word, he's going to be attacked or whatever. And after going back to Yaoundé, he becomes a different person. He becomes a chameleon. He changes his color.
Now, Dr. Ella, the leads you're giving into this story, it's quite revealing. It shows that either he's planning to institute some things that are irregular based on the constitution. And what you've just said is revealing. It tells us that Cameroon is a lawless country and therefore cannot be talking about law because they do not even respect their own laws. In the United States of America, if something is beyond the boundaries of the law, irrespective of who you are, you cannot exist within that setup if you're not respecting the law. Now let's talk on Senator. He has said what he has said as a disgruntled in acting and the government proportionately, and you have reacted. The government, Secretary of State for Education, sent out a statement, and now you're making a statement that is official. This is what Ambazonians want to know. The intimacy with friends, make relations. Before we get Dr. on top of the hour, Ambazonians would like to glimpse of some of the moves you've made towards the United States. He's just an boy, an ambassador representing the nation. But we as a people during these perilous times, we deserve to make relationships and to have those that can enable us in lobby. Perhaps you want to give some information. I know that you and the president so strongly that diplomacy is not in the media. At least you're doing some work. And if yes, what is that work? Tell us as you can tell us for the next 5 minutes so that we get and we can have some smiles on our faces. Thank you.
Yeah. You know about all the the temporary residence that just was given to, although La Republique citizens are also benefiting from that. Those are very strong ground move that we have been doing before reaching to that point. That was just from a few months ago. You know about the Senate laws that have been coming out telling La Republique to come to the table and have a convivial discussion with us with no condition, although we have our condition put that we are going there to discuss our independence. You have seen the Senate, how do they call this woman in California, who we've run behind her for so long, but although she came to divert herself and talked about La République du Cameroon, but they were the first again to make sure that they had to block those so-called Cameroonians who were about to be deported to La République du Cameroon. We have made sure that the defense cooperation that was between La République and the USA has been blocked, stopped. It's no more going. All the weapons that was being sent in Goa, this economic cooperation between La République has been stopped. So we have done a lot of diplomacy behind the scene in order to make sure La République is being pressurized to come to the table, to the Swiss-led process, and let's talk our separation. So for this guy who is now 6 months in La République du Cameroon to be uttering such narrative that he is saying there, it wonders me if he is really current with what is going on. You know, sometimes career diplomats get confused. There's a lot of blundering with diplomats that they say something that they regret after, even on camera, like what he has just done now. I believe he's getting some letters coming from the USA telling, hey, guy, you wouldn't have said that. You wouldn't have been one-sided. You would have just sat quiet or asked for the people to sit down and talk. So we will know
There,
that, and
there,
it's always on ABT. We will bring that up when that letter will go. There's nothing secret in that. We will show. I know he is under pressure now from his country because USA knows exactly what is going on in Amazonia, and they will not, from any level. You know about Tibo Nagy. He had this type of CRTV interview, and he was pressed. If you can remember well, he was pressed by
yeah,
the journalist woman, asking her, asking Tibo Nagy that they should send the Amazonia Americans who are over there promoting genocide in their so-called Cameroon. And Tibo Nagy gave them a clean, clear answer by saying, up till now, they have not seen what they have done wrong to deport them back to Cameroon. So you can see that this guy is still not fresh with what is going on. And let me make a statement here. He picked something one-sided and speak on it. The vice president, Comrade Eric Atter, if he is talking on this video or audio that Commissioner Willie made and sent out, the same moment the vice president, with the authority of the defense commander, went out and denounced that audio or video and saying that it does not represent the position of this interim government. So we are now in a social media era where anybody can pick his gadget and talk. I know, in diplomacy, you will hear some certain question coming like, you journalists, you guys are so smart in questions. Okay, if he is in the interim government as a commissioner, what has the interim government done to him for such a gap? But as you know, our president is somebody who walks behind the scene. He doesn't go out and shout as other people would do. He walks behind the scene and he's talking hard with Commissioner Willie, and things are going to be in order in the
I
very
really
few
think
moments
that
to come.
the utterances of this diplomat in Yaoundé was not as a result of the statements that came in from Commander Willie, because Commander Willie made a statement which Ambazonians did not enable for it to be popular, and he did not mention an audio from Willie. He talked about videos that he has been seeing, meaning that he's talking about a data that he had. And you saw Nijo yesterday was very vexed with such conduct. It was really an apology that we would have a diplomat be unfair, I would say dishonest. That's political honesty vis-a-vis the Amazonian quest for freedom. Elliot, you would want to make this statement because a few minutes having the Secretary of State for Communication in his obvious out that come up here and made remarks which have been taking note of them, and I think you deserve an exclusive interview on Thursday that will last for at least 90 minutes, that you expand things you mentioned. I remember some of the things he said. We're gonna get excerpts of his saying. If you would permit, this is a public invitation. Don't let crew have, but please talk to us a little bit in this in relation. Your office is directly related to the affairs in lobbying organizations, UNICEF, youth organ within the United Nations, and school resuming. Cameroon is playing the emotional blackmail card, talking about schools as a way to enforce normacy on the ground. Now, what is your office communicating in this react based on the interim government position when it comes to school resumption?
Well, let me be very clear here. The interim government has never ever refused school to resume. But we have said this clear. We have asked the United Nations for a buffer zone whereby the teachers and the school children are safe. We cannot allow our children going to school with militaries. I mean, I will not call them military. Let me use the right word, terrorists, standing with AK-47, high military weapons, dressed like war zone, and you expect the children to sit in class and read? No, we cannot accept that, and we have made it clear to the parents, and this has to be really, really well sounded on ABC. If any parent is sending his or her child to school, they are doing it at their own risk. We have said until we will be sure that there is security for the students to go to school and study in an atmosphere free of fear, then we can make a statement and say, yeah, you guys can go to school. But for now, we are absolutely certain, sure that La Republique is forcing this school. We saw it, man. They did it in Kumba. They did it in Kumba. They killed the boy, this child that was shot behind the car coming back from school. In Nizam, in Bamenda, the other small child that was shot. Where was shot from
Baby Tato was
yeah.
just blown her skull off right there in Boya.
This is what we are telling people. It's not that we don't want our children. Look, Amazonians are prone to education. We love education. We want a literate Amazonian. We can't stop our children going to school, but we will not use the auspices of school to send our children to go and die. No, that will not happen. So this is it. This is what, if they don't understand, La Republique is forcing all the raping. How many children do we have? You can ask the Secretary of State for Women Affairs. We have thousands of girls who have been pregnant because of going to school. They were raped by this terrorist militia called military.
We have it. We have it on camera, Doctor. We have it on camera.
Yeah, this guy never addressed such things, and he is there forcing people to go to school, telling they enforce laws by the non-state actors. We are not non-state actors. Yeah, we are in reality when it comes to diplomatic language, but we are an Amazonian. We are a country. We are fighting to restore our independence. So I think there is really going to be a connection with this guy. We will find out to talk with him to really put him on top of the issue. Let him be current. Yeah.
Yeah, because the statement non-state actors is a variant of 1608 XV of the United Nations Charter. It is in it doesn't recognize. In fact, he probably is corrupt, like Star Smart said earlier, or he is just totally ignorant of our history and legality as a people. Thank you very much, Secretary of State, for this.
Just a minute.
I'm so glad.
Let me
the effort of go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Now,
yeah.
Let me just read you what is coming from La Republique to Cameroon about his
operation
on sending. Yeah, there is a guy who's called Nelo Nezred. Come and get your own national and international cake. Also, the other one, Cashew said, hope he's bringing his husband this time around. You see, congratulations, sir. Your gift is waiting for you in Yaoundé. Tume Judy said. He needs his own golden medal from Paul Biya. What did the former one do to bring peace in Cameroon? Waste appointment. Get out. You know, there are, on Thursday, I'm going to read all this comment that is coming from there. So he should know that he is not only trying to buy himself, because he knows that he is not welcome in that. And if you see, he was being welcome. Normally, you come as an accredited ambassador or diplomat from your country, and the president receive you. I don't know whether the moving corpse, Paul Biya, could not move to take him or to receive him and send some other person to receive him. You can see it was not the Paul Biya that received him. All the same, that is not our cup of tea. What we are interested is his utterances are absolutely biased and against our norms as Amazonian and this interim government.
Thank you very much once again, Dr. Ella. You've just made a promise that you will be read everything that's coming up from La Republique du Cameroon. I think we're going to use these days to talk about this with great information. Right now, back into the newsroom to do it officially. We will mission into the office of the Secretary of State for Communication. We have stolen 10 minutes, and we deeply apologize for that. We have just 5 more minutes to round this off, and he is already, I can confirm to you, he's in his office waiting to handle some of the issues we have already done. So I'm calling on all those who are in watching on Facebook, on social media. Dr. Mungwa will be live to you a very important, like you heard earlier on, he announced through the heart there. He announced on week the Cameroon recycles the master to enhance cultural site in Ambazonia. Right after that, we will with our State for Communications and IT. Thank you very much.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
And now sports. West Ham have announced the club record signing of Brazil midfielder Lucas Paqueta on a 5-year contract.
The 25-year-old, who is expected to be part of the Brazil squad at this year's World Cup, has joined from Lyon. Well, let's join Gabelasin for more reports.
Latest world sports. Football. Lucas Paqueta. West Ham signed Lyon and Brazil midfielder for club record fee. West Ham has announced the club record signing of Brazil midfielder Lucas Paqueta on a 5-year contract. The 25-year-old, who is expected to be part of the Brazil squad at this year's World Cup, has joined from Lyon. The initial £36.5 million deal for Paqueta could rise to more than £50 million with potential add-ons, eclipsing the £45 million signing of striker Sebastian Haller from Eintracht Frankfurt in 2019. Paqueta joined Lyon for €20 million, that is £17 million in 2020, after 18 months at AC Milan. I hope it's the beginning of an enjoyable journey, Paqueta told West Ham's official website. Hammers boss David Moyes added, whilst he will need time to adapt, we're excited about adding another proven international to our squad. Paqueta scored 9 goals and contributed 6 assists in 35 League One appearances last season. Last season, West Ham had a very good season, and I hope they continue to enjoy more and more good seasons in my time at the club, he added. I am excited to pull on the West Ham shirt and show the fans what I can do to help my teammates and the club. He has scored 7 times in 33 games for Brazil and played for Lyon against West Ham in last season's Europa League quarter-final, which the Hammers won 4-1 on aggregate. Paqueta has scored 21 times and contributed 14 assists in his 80 appearances for Lyon. Hammers boss David Moyes has spoken about the difficulties he has encountered signing players this summer as he bids to maintain momentum to the Europa League semi-final. Paqueta is West Ham's 8th signing of the summer. The Hammers have 3 points from their first 4 Premier League games and host Tottenham on Wednesday, 1945 BST. They will compete in the group stage of the Europa Conference League. Tennis. US Open. Serena Williams beats Danka Kovinic to extend New York farewell. Serena Williams extended her US Open farewell with a gritty opening win on an entertaining night packed with hope and celebration in New York. Williams, who is set to retire after the tournament, won 6-3, 6-3 against Montenegro's Danka Kovinic. A near-capacity 25,000 crowd on Arthur Ashe Stadium wheeled on their idol, who responded in typical determined style. Williams, 40, will play Estonian second seed Anett Kontaveit in the second round on Wednesday. The 23-time Grand Slam singles champion, who is 1 short of Australian Margaret Court's all-time record, is also playing in the doubles alongside older sister Venus, adding another excitement element to what she hopes will be a long goodbye this fortnight. Her first assignment was beating Kovinic, ranked 80th in the world, and there was a thunderous noise when she took the first of 3 match points to ensure her singles career was not over yet. Williams jumped on the spot when Kovinic's backhand return hit the net, then twirled ecstatically in the center of the court before blowing kisses to her adoring fans when she had returned to her seat to soak in the occasion. On how occasions like this affect her plans, she said, "It's extremely difficult still because I absolutely love being out there. The more tournaments I play, I feel like the more I can belong out there. That's a tough feeling to have and to leave knowing the more you do it, the more you can shine. But it's time for me, to evolve to the next thing. I think it's important because there's so many other things that I want to do." Gab Ellison reporting from Daunted, ABC Amber News.
And with that sports report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
Idai now is now part of Limbe Deep Sea Port, the tea sector in agony, and we will also be having Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE, right after Undaunted, topic of discussion, while our Republic recycles the master plan to enhance cultural genocide in Amazonia.
Also today we did a follow-up story on activities in Bangui, grounded were hot after the colonial deal sealed some shops last Monday. Traders in solidarity have also closed all their shops. We gave you today the analysis of President's speech, a rollover from our yesterday. And in sports, we told you that Lucas Biquata, West Ham signed Lyon and Brazil midfielder for club record fee. And that was it for tonight. Undaunted, bringing to the news Untold Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Steph Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, I am Onyi Opala.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.
Indeed, we leave you. Thank you for leaving us on with the images of ABC Amber TV. You just heard the amazing write-up that was sent in by Don Wanobi. ABC is fast becoming the best, not just in the Cameroons, when it comes to speaking truth and digging the news, the untold stories from the ground. You heard the news today. I know you enjoyed it. And our target is not the sub-Saharan region. Our target is to get global and to hit the mountains with everything. Amazonians have a right to tell their own stories the way they should. Tonight, we're having the Secretary of State for Communications and IT in his usual outing on Tuesdays. And today he has chosen to talk on something very important. Why La République du Cameroon recycles the master plan to enhance cultural genocide in Amazonia. Before anything else, it's important for us to move directly into his office so that Secretary Martin Mungwa will tell us exactly what he has in store for us today. And let's get there right now. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Yeah, good evening, Paddy. Good evening, everyone, dear Ambazonians. Global greetings and 21-gun salute to our ARFs. Today's topic is why La République du Cameroon recycles the master plan to enhance cultural genocide in Amazonia. Dear Ambazonians, a common justification for safeguarding cultural heritage in times of conflict is that what is at stake in the destruction of our heritage is not mere loss of historical artifacts, but in some sense, loss of a people themselves. When cultural heritage is destroyed, severe harm has been done to those closely associated with the heritage, and such destruction ought to be punished accordingly. This is often taken to justify treating cultural heritage destruction as a violation of both human rights and international criminal law, as a crime against humanity and a war crime. Recent discussions have gone further. sometimes treating cultural heritage destruction as a genocidal act, and so as a further violation of international criminal law. When the former British Southern Cameroon was invaded by the gendarmes of French Cameroon under the late President Ahmadou Ahidjo, the notion of genocide was intended to explicitly encompass cultural destruction. Southern Cameroon today, Ambazonia, has suffered belligerent occupation from these colonizers for almost 6 decades, and the crime involving an intention to destroy, in whole or in part, the ethnicity, national, racial, or religious groups in our nation. However, we need to examine today what form such destruction has taken, and in turn, what techniques we qualify as genocidal. Is it a matter of controversy? Both in academic inquiries and in legal practice, we believe it was and still is a master calculation to assimilate and or annihilate us Ambazonians as a people. We were told that their cultures, music, and ways of life were superior to ours. I believe that as a nation and as a people, we need to recognize the role music has played in our liberation quest and the role it continues to play. We cannot undermine the need to have more of our story be communicated in purely Ambazonian rhymes and rhythms. Today, we would like to take a moment to reflect with you, dear Ambazonians, on formidable actors in our revolution who are seeking to echo the sound of our struggle to all corners of Africa and the world. Our musical talent and expression are examples of the Ambazonian culture that has been choked off and relegated to a subculture of the colonial power, La République du Cameroon. People say music is the moonlight in the gloomy nightlife, like the long night we were thrown into almost 6 years ago. Another famous quote says, "When I hear music, I fear no danger, and I see no enemy." Yet another says, "Too bad, people cannot always be playing music. Maybe there will be no more wars if they did." Dear Ambazonians, our very talented musical artists fearlessly went to work shortly after the brutal war was declared on us by Mr. Biya and his neo-colonial partner, France. Many books of the Bible relate to the role of music in war. The Greeks are also said to have employed flutists who played songs to uplift their troops. Here in the United States, George Washington is said to have used music to keep troops in check, and patriotic songs as part of the American War of Independence, serving as a reminder of what people and soldiers were fighting for. Music is delivered in many more ways today because of technology. Soldiers have access to smartphones, computers, and many other gadgets to help them cope with the stresses of war and to maintain balance. We are delighted and proud that our ARFs can listen to Ambazonian music and feel the distinction of our country, Ambazonia, from La République du Cameroon. Dear Ambazonians, the interim government would like to thank our musical artists and those who support them. Yes, we are blessed with a profoundly rich musical tradition that shows unique melodies, rhythm, and uplifting expression. Who knew Ambazonians? Who knew that the musical genius of Ambazonians would break the shackles of oppression and amplify the cries of our people across the world, even before we have completely liberated our country? Yes, the musical talent of Amazonia is slowly penetrating all the world. Who would have imagined that our melodic compositions would animate and grace occasions of all magnitudes across the globe? You have musicians that Reverend John Sama, Josephine Atanga, Lach Tepino, songs from Aaron Evangelical, Mary Mandy, Tega King, and more. In their musical compositions, Amazonian artists sound the anguish, misfortunes, desperation, lamentations, grief, and pain of our people as victims of senseless war in the failed Federation of the Cameroons. They plead for peace and an end to violence and death. Sadly, the brutal regime of Yaoundé does not understand the language or music and peace. Yaoundé means death of our innocent people, as the colonial regime is at this time blinded by the fruits of a no-so colony that is shares 50-50 with France through the December 26, 1959 Cooperation Treaty. We can factually state that Amazonian music is a component fuel to the desire of Amazonians to regain freedom and sovereign statehood from colonial French Cameroon. Gone are the days when music was reduced to the Makosas and Bikutsis genres forced upon us by the brutal colonial oppressor French Cameroon, who carefully prevented our artists from emerging to prominence. You would agree that the emergence of Amazonian talents into the musical world today, despite the brutal war, is indisputable. The signature tune of our revolution, How Many People Paul Biya Go Kill, He Go Kill We Tire, would top any hit parade in the world if it had been properly produced. In fact, to prove our point, the Brigade anti-Sardinal movement, which had been denouncing the Biya regime and chasing its corrupt leaders around the world, simply adopted it. It is not a surprise that they could not produce a song of their own, right? Like for everything else, they rely on Amazonian songs for their so-called fight to change their country through protests in European countries. Seriously, let me ask. Amazonian music indeed provides solace to the spirit under the brutal attack by an unrelenting enemy. In fact, FMA, the king, supposedly late FMA, the king, believed to be now gone before us, found the time to put his musical talent on display, leaving the enemy at a loss, unable to figure out who he really was. His musical talent was also unmatched. Dear Ambazonians, if our musical artists took the world by storm in the last short 6 years of our revolution, just imagine what they can do in a free country of their own. Imagine what the Amazonian musical industry can offer the world. This interim government seizes this opportunity to call on the African and global music industry to support our musical artists. This interim government has no doubt that the musical wealth of a free Amazonia will enrich the global musical landscape forever once our independence restoration is recognized. The world will come to realize what it has missed. Long live the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Short live the struggle. Over to you, Paddy.
Light up a fire, we getting higher, we feel the power, oh. Mshatima Vendula Bye. Motherland is such a paradise. How long before we realize? Savannah and Sahara unite, light up one big firelight. We dancing through the night. Landra with the nothing lador, with the machang changina. Oh, So let us dream alive. Nyova bena with the mayua, Mshiajima, freedom of the mind. Afi enaru ila fanaku, afi enaru ila fanabu. Idudun from the light up a fire, we getting higher, we feel the power. Oh, abatia, verbatia kongadema, verbatia chenga chenga, verbatia yovabena. Oh. Saddle with pudding up. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. With the matching in the kivishi, Kishiki and the with your tree. Happen in your vanilla door, yo, yo,
Can you imagine, Dr. Mungwa, that with all of this, they told us that Bikutsi was the best music.
It's
That our cultures were inferior, that we were Anglophiles, we were sauvage. This, you just put it on a platform of class today. Talk to us, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're absolutely correct. I think, I mean, as you know, the years go by, and we come to see technology and openness, then we begin to understand the gravity, or put it this way, the scale of the plan that La République had for Ambazonia. It is scary. And people, or Ambazonians in particular, really have to understand that we were suppressed in every sphere of human endeavor. Can you imagine that today, or this year, 2022, there isn't a single theater in the whole of Ambazonia? Not even one. How can we have cultural expression when there are no theaters? The closest we can have is little, plays that they act in schools, and that's it. There is no official theater in the entire southern Cameroons. Then how can we develop culturally? So the intent of the La République government was to annihilate us any means possible. And they started at the heart of it, culture. Make sure that our cultural expression could not go beyond the level of our villages. It is there for Ambazonians to see. Have you ever thought about it? That there's no theater in Ambazonia. or no official theater where people can go and relax and feel at home with fellow Ambazonians. We're all balkanized in our little villages. We live in villages with neighbors. We never know what happens in the neighboring villages, let alone the neighboring counties or LGAs. And that can only happen if we have a theater at the national level. So you can go there and enjoy something from let's say from the BLM, or enjoy something from FACO, or maybe something from Bui. There is none. That's where we find ourselves today, very close to the abyss of complete destruction. Over to you, Paddy.
Very close to the abyss of complete destruction. Dr. Mungwa, you brought a strange topic in discussion today, and the highlighting word that had to link up with the genocide is cultural genocide. And I was trying to look into that to find out exactly what you want to talk about. And I realized that you said some things very intensively, which I may just highlight a little bit more so that you elaborate on it more, because you were talking about it and then you linked it to our artists that are really suffering from this. You said something. You said a common justification for safeguarding cultural heritage in times of conflict is that what is at stake in the destruction of cultural heritage is not mere loss of historical artifacts, but in some sense, loss of a people themselves. You see, they have told, you saw the class, the boy from Bui, I'm talking Mr. Leo brought in that song we just listened. There's a fusion of jazz music, reggae music, and njam. Unbelievable. But you know, we were afraid. When I went to Yaoundé for the first time to go to the university, I was afraid because I was afraid they were going to call me Le Bamenda. So I was even afraid to identify myself with Mbakalum. Everybody wants to do either a Makosa or a Bikutsi. So you see, this was a master calculation.
Absolutely. And I happen to be someone who really enjoys music, especially African music. I think one of the interests that I've developed over the past 20 years is to find out the source of African music. Where do they get their inspiration? We know that anybody who actually studies music in a very formal environment, they teach you the software notation, and you get to a point where they teach you progressions and so on and so forth. And you realize that with Western music, you start from progressions, then you can play, and then you play the solo, and everything just falls into place. But of course, that happens because people can read music. But you realize that in the African environment, people don't read music. So how do they compose music? So that's been something that is very intriguing. And you realize that when you see how developed the African mind is when it comes to composition, you realize that the African mind is so powerful that they try to pull the sound from their brains onto the music, because that music is an instrument of communication. It's a communication tool, whether it's a guitar or what we call the ndenge and all sorts of musical instruments. They try to talk using that instrument. So it's a means of communication. And when you look at it from a Western perspective, you realize that the African does it in reverse. They play the solo first, and then from the solo, you can actually develop a progression. And I have done that a few times. And many African musicians, they do that because some of them may start reading music later on in life, but they start by just getting the sound out of their head, pull it out of their head, and they use the guitar or whatever musical instrument they have to get that sound. And that's why the African music is so unique. Because when you even turn it to Western music, you discover that the chords are very complicated. They use all type of jazz chords, for instance, where they are all variations of a chord, or the ninth, the seventh, the 13th, and so on and so forth. And it gives it a certain way. The sound comes out in a very spiritual manner. And that's very complicated. And that's why when the African plays the music, it comes from the heart. And that's where the blues comes from. And people don't seem to understand the connection between the blues in the American South and the songs of Africa. They are all connected because it comes from the soul. It comes from the soul. So you get that feeling first. And when you write it, you realize that you start with the solo part, and then from there you can work it out, whether it's a pentatonic scale you're playing, minor or major, and or it's a natural scale or whatever. So you do it the reverse way. And that's why at times when I listen to African music, I'm really, really taken by the dexterity and the way they actually understand what is coming out of their body. Is just magic. And this gentleman who you just showed us, it's unbelievable. I almost started, shaking and tapping my leg because I could feel that.
I think I was privileged to see you in the background. You were actually doing this. Those were some moves that Amazonians were not fortunate to see. But then fortunately I understood, because a good dancer when they shake their head. So I noticed.
In 30 minutes, I can pull the progression on the guitar. It's not that difficult. I already know where it comes from. And so, but that is not the subject of today. Anyway, it's a very, very, I like the song, and it also shows Amazonians how creative we are. And I'm sure there are lots of others who are equally creative. So I hope I'm going to open another avenue. Let musicians understand they're all part of this revolution. And nobody is left out. And the sort of energy that these musicians have given to the struggle or given to this revolution is unique. And I take the occasion to thank them for their work.
Yeah, you see, Dr. Mungwa, I love it when musicians and those who understand notes of music, they try to interpret African music and maybe put in their sofa notation you just highlighted. But then when you listen to folklore, root music, take for instance, I was born in Bamenda, so it's easy for me to resonate some of those sounds like now when you listen to all of that melody, there's that nostalgia that comes. And these moms and dads in the village who get these powerful rhythms do not understand these software notations and music interpretation. It tells us something about the cultures which we're talking about, the genocide, the genocidal onslaught, or the cultural genocidal onslaught. It was actually a crumbling of the spirits of the people, weakening them from their spirits and telling them that they are not fit enough, so that they can be they can be destroyed psychologically and intimidated out of their own homeland.
It is no different from our brothers and sisters who were taken to the south and put under very inhuman conditions. The samba went all the way to Cuba, to Spanish America, and all the way to the south. Is the rhythm of the blues, and that is a minor progression. So, it really hits you, and when you hear those people singing, it expresses that frustration in their lives, and it can only come from within. It can only come from within, and which is contrary to the high life of the President Kombarga, which you call that it's actually a major progression or a major scale or whatever, major pentatonic. If you want to be very precise. It goes, when it's happy and people are jumping, excited, it's a major, progression. But if it's sad and full of anger and deep into something that really strikes us, so that's the blues, and that's a minor progression. And we at least through music theory, we'll be able to recognize that. But the rest else is part of the territory. So that is it. Over to you, Paddy. Is there something else that we should
a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are
Right,
happening in the struggle, and
right.
your ears are on the ground. You've discussed some of it. You started on Saturday talking about the economy and the scheme of Cameroon. Undaunted has enforced on it yesterday and today. You heard them talking elaborately on fuel prices, talking on the economy and the scheme on what is happening, the fraud and everything. But there is this aspect of, I'm trying to figure out a word so that um I'm not insulting, but just describing who he is. Um, should I say he was your predecessor on this platform, now seeking to be president of his Amazonians call it in Jangi group. That definitely that's not an interim government. And there are lots of things interesting about him. He has been sacked by almost every leader in this struggle, which defines the person we're talking about. We're going to get into the intricacies and the details on how some of the activists that made some to think that he was a hero and some of their utterances about him. We're getting to that. But with your permission, I think you know this writer is one of the biggest, one of our great minds in Amazonia. He had an article, and we recorded this article. This particular writer is an amazing writer. He spoke about elections and all of that. He is Muzangta, Fredly Muzangta. I'm sure you know him, the soul searcher of Amazonia. With your permission, sir, perhaps to lay a foundation so that we kick off the session. Let me just bring what he did in a few minutes, and then we kick on from there. He was talking about all of these elections from all of these people, linking the Sisiko, Dr. Sako, and the charade that is happening now. With your permission, I'll play that in a few minutes. Or do you want to say something before I play that?
Well, not really. I was thinking that the topic of the day was the interview with the French ambassador. I thought we should bring that up front so that it's a continuation of what Secretary of State Dr. Elat Kizito talked about, so we can get that out of the way and then at least go further.
And then come to that.
Yes, because I mean, it's wonderful. I'm happy that I have the occasion to comment on this interview. The first thing is that I can understand the anguish of Ambazonians. I can understand the fact that we have been pushed to the wall, and we hope that every occasion that somebody who has the power can say something in our favor. But at the same time, we just have to understand this. I'm going to make a few points here. The first is that we have not seen the entire interview. So we cannot make conclusions based on a snippet of information that we get selected by CRTV. It wasn't selected by the ambassador. So I don't see why people get so angry and they're saying all sorts of things that, in my opinion, are totally irrelevant. The second thing, which is even far more important, the ambassador is an emissary. He's not a lawmaker. He's not. He comes there to be a friend of La Republique, sent by the American government. He's not a legislator. He's not from Congress. The issues between Ambazonia and La Republique come through the Congress.
I want to ask something. Let me intercept you a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'd like to intercept. You have said something which I wouldn't. Ambazonians listening so much, that's it. I may not want you to go further before we come back. You said he is not a lawmaker. That is agreed. You're trying to give in the government strata where
Right.
he is. It's important.
Right.
But as an envoy, a field worker, do you think his recommendation, his report, cannot affect politics in Washington?
What I'm saying is that I have
When it comes to America's foreign policy in a region, do you think he will not be
until
consulted?
I see the entire interview, I cannot make such a conclusion. And the third thing is that, I mean, we know the proverbial don't shoot the messenger. You are trying to shoot the messenger. The same person who went to Boya and said this war cannot be won through by military means. Now we all accepted that opinion. Listen, we have to understand that the strategy by La Republique, and we very often, a good number of us fall into that trap all the time. Do not expect that every person will be talking about Ambazonia 100% of the time. They will try to be as balanced as possible. Listen to this. They will try to be as balanced as possible. And what the ambassador said was technically correct. We can prove that the non-state actors, ADF, we have proof that ADF has been communicating with La Republique. They've been exchanging arms and they've been conducting some of the crimes that we saw in our territory. And ADF represents non-state actors. We have made it very clear. We don't kidnap, and ADF has come on air and they have accepted that they've kidnapped people. We just have to understand the context in which the gentleman was speaking. Okay? And one thing people have to understand.
I'm getting you, Dr. Mungwa.
Yes.
And I like this. I'm getting you on discussion because you are Secretary of State for the interim government. I'm not in any way disagreeing, but you see, I want us to, you can easily and freely, as Secretary of State for this interim government, shift the blames to one side, which we all agree to the ADF. But look at the situation, the scenario here. They in Yaoundé encapsulate us. ADF, they encapsulate us with even a voice, because the objective of using enablers like the ADF purportedly, and also using Atanganji boys, is to taint us black. So you see, it is a politics where they contribute in the irrational behavior, unscrupulous behavior, and then just report about it. Because when they started in 2019 saying that violence from both angles, the interim government was not enhancing violence, but they did not differentiate between Amazonian Defense Forces of Cho Ayaba and the Amazonian Restoration Forces. So do you think that, cognizant of this, we have to come out strong with the Amazonian opinion of certain utterances that minimizes the root cause of this whole problem?
Yes, the last sentence, yes, we have to. It is our responsibility to do that. And remember, there are various scenarios here. This gentleman is not a lawyer. You are not taking the ambassador of the United States to Yaoundé as now we are putting him in a court for him to say this is right and this is wrong. He's an emissary. And we have to understand that. The issue between Ambazonia and La Republique is in the US Senate. And the outcome of it is Senate Resolution 684. That's where you should be referring to. Let me tell you, if you had asked that gentleman, the ambassador, to talk about the right to self-defense, why did the journalist not ask? He would have made it very clear the position of the American government on self-defense. We have the right to self-defense, and that's why he didn't mention it. We have to just understand the language. And the questions that La Republique had, they should be trying to answer the statements that have been made here by the US Congress, not calling an ambassador to talk about something that's totally irrelevant. None of the issues that the gentleman said or the journalist said is found in this document. This document is the legal part that will be between La Republique and Ambazonia. It will be settled in English, and they will have to learn to understand English. I just have this feeling that La Republique doesn't seem to understand the depth of the accusations that are laid in this document. It will be done in English. The British Parliament has endorsed 684. And in case La Republique doesn't know, they are flying around thinking that by some means, by somehow they will ignore what is in this document. This is what they should be referring to. That journalist should take a copy of this 684 and sit down with the ambassador and go through it. Maybe the ambassador can educate them as to what needs to be done. Not just coming and talking on arbitrary terms. Of course, do we allow as soldiers to be killing kids who go to school? Of course not. So those are irrelevant topics. This is what that journalist, I hope he can understand English. I just have a feeling that a lot of
you see, Dr. Mungwa, this is the important that the liberation movement with you in because it's not only it brings to Amazonia the legacy of issues. The Charles Ebune we all know is it's and he did that purpose. I'm sure the editor of that program should be based on the CPTM does that purposefully. It is a fraud. I understand the spine. I also understand the second. We'll be talking on that Thursday, and we will get to the dissection of that entire. And I'm happy we now because it brings hope. He should not, because I was concerned the fact that people free him from his crime of not doing his assignment. Ambazonians should not responsibility for his irresponsibility to the facts and to talk them when it is necessary. So concern here was the utterances that were made, and Ambazonians felt that because Cameroon, which is the things we have to talk now. This is I already asked to Dr. Ed that Cameroon is the card of now the one normalcy, and Charles Ebune in the heart of that brought it up and gave the politician to flee from it, did a blame game, some things talking about peace, but not necessarily talking about justice. That's a major concern, don't you think?
Of course, it's a major concern. Again, the ambassador could only answer questions that were put to him at the best of his ability. And we don't know, why didn't they just make it live so that everybody can listen to? Why have they decided to keep that document for another week before releasing it to the public? Of course, there's a reason for it. Don't be surprised that it will be edited. Parts that are negative to La Republique will be cut out. They don't want that embarrassment that they had before. We just have to use common sense. When we start fighting each other on the basis of a snippet of information said by an ambassador, I think it's very unfortunate. They have a very difficult task wherever they go. American ambassadors go throughout the world. This is a country that is doing everything in their power to bring justice and peace to Amazonia, and it's already been established. This is the work of the American Congress, not the job of the ambassador. That's not the job of the ambassador. Even when we leave La Republique, there will be an American ambassador in La Republique, and they will try to create friendly relations. They have ongoing projects that the Americans feel that these projects are important to them, and they want these projects to succeed. So let us not mix it. The ambassador is not there to be arguing on our part. We have a role to play. The American Congress has its role to play. He is just an emissary who's been sent to Yaoundé to create some sort of a relationship. And in the course of that relationship, I think they're also working to make them understand the importance of peace between our two countries if they make sure that we can come to the table without any preconditions. I think that message has been sufficiently transmitted to the Yaoundé junta, and they know it. I think the better question would have been, why don't you call the president of the president, whatever they call him, of the House of Assembly, and then ask him about Resolution 684. Go through all the points here for him to give his opinion. That would be valid. That's what he should be doing. Ever since they released a resolution, Senate Resolution 684, have they ever discussed it? But every occasion they have to talk to an American personality, they start talking about terrorism. They talk about the Patriotic Act. That has nothing to do with Amazonia. It's about American, the American environment. It is about their country, not about foreigners. Why are these people so out of touch?
Dr. Mungwa,
Yes.
Dr. Mungwa, you are using this document as a basis for your anchor or hope that you're restoring to Amazonians. And I think Amazonians listening to you now are getting excited. Would you want to highlight the aspect in this document that you think is what the British Parliament has endorsed? Just highlight it quickly so that it refreshes the mind. I understand we had this discussion last week. Just highlight that so that it helps us to get everyone on board as we move forward.
The entire document, Resolution 684, has been endorsed by the British Parliament. I think there's actually a report on it. I think I will send it to you. I probably should have sent it to you. But of course, the basis of 684 is that they're calling on the government and separatist armed groups from the English-speaking Northwest and Southwest region to end all violence, respect human rights of all Cameroonians, and pursue a genuine, inclusive dialogue toward resolving the ongoing civil conflict in Anglophone Cameroon. It is that basic. And some of the reasons why they have made that statement because of a lot of observations that I started talking about last week. I may continue. Whereas Biya, the oldest head of state in Africa, has been the president of Cameroon since 1982, maintaining his grip on power by centralizing authority in the executive, undermining the constitution of Cameroon, impeding democratic governance through corrupt practices, using security services to repress the opposition, and conducting elections marred by widespread irregularities and allegation of fraud. These are all things I said about Biya. Whereas in October 2016, the English-speaking lawyers, students, and teachers in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon took to the streets to peacefully protest marginalization of the English-speaking Cameroonians by the government of Cameroon in the legal and education systems, as exemplified by the appointment of French-speaking judges and teachers in the northwest and southwest regions, and the publishing of important legislation solely in the French language. Is this not true? This is true. You go to page 4. Whereas the lengthy government-imposed shutdowns of the internet and social media in the northwest and southwest region, totaling 240 days between 2017 and 2018, had a devastating impact on the economies and educational institutions in the regions, undermined freedom of expression, prevented the free flow of information related to the conflict, and restricted the ability of local communities to interact and communicate. Whereas, numerous credible reports from human rights monitors, including the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, have documented the excessive use of force by government security forces against Cameroonian civilians living in the Anglophone regions, including the burning of villages, the use of live ammunition against protesters, arbitrary arrest and detention, torture, sexual abuse, and killing of civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. Do they say that is being done by non-state actors? It is the state of La Republique. It is very clear here. It's documented. By the way, Americans took satellite images of La Republique soldiers burning villages. When the time of reckoning will come, they will see those pictures. It's very clear. So all these issues, and it goes on and on and on. I told you the 9 pages of all sort of documentary evidence that the legislation in America has put together. This is not even something that we should be looking at. La Republique is trying to whitewash its face by bringing such interviews, editing it just to the bare bones to give the impression that they are doing the right thing. And yet, they all remember, they were the ones who declared war against us. Instead of going to parliament to justify the use of force, Biya sat in an airport lounge and declared war against Amazonians. Remember this. We are in the 21st century. There's no way you can pull that. You can't say that he never did it because we have them both in audio and in video. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mungwa. You see, this is why it is always sweet to have a discussion with you, because it's not about empty talk, people making noise and talking baseless, unfactual. You have just read this document, but you know that for a couple of times we've had this discussion. I have two concerns, like many other Amazonians. I a few weeks ago, I would say months ago, about 3 months ago, when I had the interview with the Washington Post journalist, and the first thing I did as a point of correction was number one, when she wanted to use the word separatist, I stopped her and corrected her, and she apologized. The next thing I did that I also stopped was the word Anglophone. I stopped and corrected. Perhaps because I had that opportunity on that stage to do it. I also did that with Mrs. Heber in Washington, the UNHCR representative in Washington, and she apologized because I said these are appellations that despise or ignore. And you realize in this document, we still have actors that probably should have investigated the reasons why we are engaged in this fight. And it's troubling to me, I don't know about you, that mainstream forces the appellations on us Anglophones and then narrow it down to the Anglophone problem, Anglophone crisis, and you know the technicalities involved. It's also troubling when they come in the context of our debate and still insist and cause us separatists. It will definitely be separating from Franco-Cameroon hegemony. But you know, those appellations are technically implicated. I asked you the last time what you think we can do as a people, as a government, and as a department, or as a communication instrument to enhance this. I just gave a formula. But aside from that, what calculated framework do you think we have to stop this? Can we be doing rebroaders? Aside from that, what else do you think?
Okay, let me put it this way. Maybe it can make you probably understand a lot better. Just imagine a couple going to court for a divorce, and the couple insists that I want to use my maiden name. In as much as they know that the divorce will be granted, and the spouse has every reason to demonstrate that marriage was never consummated, they're never going to call her Miss I don't know, Paddy. Let's say your wife's name was Irene Paddy, name Mungwa. They will not. She will not resort to her maiden name. That's what we are trying to do. We understand that, but they will call you in the formal nomenclature that was attributed to you when you supposedly get married, even if that marriage did not work. When you look in the context of our independence, we were supposedly supposed to come together, lay the groundwork for us to be a federal state. That was the final statement that went out. Now we're coming back to say now all those arrangements never worked. So when people try to look at us, they always go back, oh, maybe it was a married couple. That's the way they're looking at us. So as I said, they are just being politically being politically right or something like that. Okay, they just have to say something. They want to have an anchor where to start. We are the ones to fight and let the people know, or the rest of the world know, that we are Amazonians and give the reasons. And we've done a remarkable job since 2016.
Yes, Dr. Mungwa,
there are people who now recognize us as Amazonia. But that process will come to an end. If after the dissolution of this federation or whatever it was, if at all there was any, we are no longer going to be part of La Republica, and we'll proceed with Amazonia. I mean, it's a bumpy road, but it's something that we have to go through, and I'm sure we will. But you,
Dr. Mungwa, it is that fight that I think we've come of age to escalate that media fight and getting into the minds and structures or institutions our rightful appellation. You know the importance of nomenclature. So, if I understand very well, you're saying that, okay, we can support or just what the Frenchman says, passab. Let's just let it go for now and hope that in future we will be called our rightful name. Or
No,
do you
not
think that
necessarily.
because when people start taking it for granted, you now have somebody making statements that are
Not
implicating
necessarily.
or insinuating, and that
No,
could
not
water down our
necessarily.
story.
No, we'll keep fighting, but we should not be surprised. That's what I'm trying to say. Do not be surprised. We just have to
Yes,
remind
do not be
people,
surprised.
don't be surprised. But I'm not saying that we should stop fighting for our name. No, they will. People will call us, but don't start blaming them. Imagine it's a journalist coming to talk about our case, and you just get upset because he calls it La Republique, and then he walks away. What have you gained out of that? Why do you just get upset? Just correct him, say, I'm sorry, okay, this is our nomenclature. That's how they call us now, because we are separating, we're a unique country. You give that person, as you said, that person apologized. Unfortunately, we have to do that on a one-to-one basis as we fight through these very difficult times. I'm not advocating that we should ignore our name. We should be proud of being Amazonians, but we should not be surprised if some people call you something else. That is no reason for us to be angry. We should learn to be diplomatic. We should learn to embrace the fact that you have people who are not Amazonians who are trying to know something about us, and they are ready to help. They're ready to help. I mean, you can imagine the Italian prime minister. He was one of the people who raised the issue that how can France be pocketing 50% of the exports of a country, 50% for free, and they think that, and La Republique thinks that that money is kept in the bank somewhere. Of course not. It is used to pay off French debts. The French owe up to $7 trillion. So all these African countries who think that they're keeping their money in French banks, they'll be sorry. There's nothing in the French banks. They've all been sent to their debtors. And nobody is fighting. Nobody is on the streets telling France that we want 100% of the money that pay for the produce. And that raises the issue that La Republique has raising money outside. Most of the Western countries, they know by giving money to La Republique, they're literally subsidizing French industry. Because when La Republique sells its produce into the international market, France automatically banks 50% of it. So that is the difficulty that La Republique is having to raise money from overseas. Why would a country come and give you money that as soon as you start making the money, you give 50% to France? Ambassadors don't understand this. And we should really understand that that is at the crux of the problems we're having today.
that is I think it's the obvious in all French colonies. Unfortunately, we find ourselves being wrapped into a Franco-Cameroon hegemony, but the French were never colonial masters. Now, to put the final nail on this, I would say that I'm happy we now have a middle ground on the fact that we should not tolerate such appellations. And the last one, so that we move on to the next topical issue, is, do you think whatever we're doing in this fight should be escalated? And if so be, what are some of the suggestions you have to give?
Absolutely, it should be escalated. But I'm not a defense person. That's for the defense people to
No, I'm
determine.
not talking about the war on the ground. I'm talking about this media war with media houses intentionally. I would say intentionally. You have even some that were Ambazonian born. I'm talking about for Hansen, Mimi Mefo. These are individuals who will intentionally still call us names. I don't know what the base of their report is. By the names they call us, I've written to both of them. The names they do call us, they are trying to say that they agree with the colonial masters. That's what we are. Do you think if we have people like For Hansen reporting stories on the ground and still calling us Northwest and Southwest because he wants to fit in the crowd? Hanson grew up in Gomangam in Bamenda. It's a young person I know very well. If you think, do you think we have to escalate our approach in stuff? This is quite concerning.
As a strategist, we have to identify the hierarchy of our issues and to see if we had limited resources, we can do anything we want. But we want to act on things that are most impactful on the short term. And the other issues, we have to address them on the long term. So it all depends on where that hierarchy of importance, where it lies. I'm not going to give you a definitive answer because I haven't done that study yet. If the strategy team can determine that fighting journalists who call us Northwest Southwest is such an important thing that the day we stop it, then the revolution will come to an end. Okay, go on with it. But I don't think so. We have far more important things to do. And our case is in the legislative chamber in the U.S. Senate. That's where the attack is. That is where, once we resolve those issues, then nomenclature is absolutely nothing. It will be, it will be decided. I mean, just like manufacturing a car, you don't start sticking on the car. No, this is a Toyota. No, you build it, but the moment it gets out of the assembly line, then they stick the names on it. So I am not personally not too worried, but at the same time, I'm not saying that when the occasion arises, you can't make that distinction. Well understood, but we can't take the mega resources attacking people like Mimi Mefo. I don't think I've read a few things from her. But some of those things may not even have a lot of.
I think debunking
cosmetics. A lot of cosmetics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now the objective when we listen to you is to bring these issues on the table so that activists, those that are real activists, our activists, understand the concerns and the stakes involved with the appellation, because just a name can make you. There's a guy I know they used to call Ngong, and he acts like Ngong, and then we know the other Ngong in China, just Ngonging the entire struggle. So it's important that we choose our names. They call us Anglophones. We have denied it, and we have proven to them that we're no longer Anglophones, and they now are calling Ambazonia. We think that it should be official. They don't make official reports on identity. Thank you very much on that. With your permission,
let me say one thing before you continue. Let me say one thing. I mean, let's not get into the realm of being. I don't want to put it. Children getting upset with everything. All over the world, they call people names. You think that the day that we'll have Ambazonia will not have names? We'll have names. Some may still stick with Anglophones. I don't want to make that a subject of our issue fighting this war. We have far more important issues that we are going to get into. The legal aspects of it, the military aspect of it, self-defense as the center theme of our struggle, and making sure that we have the materials we need, we have the trained manpower in order to execute this war. Everything else is secondary. Because those names, those labels will still be there, even 100 years from today. Let's be focused. Let's think about the immediate issues. Now we know that Abu Karim is being trained so that he will come out of jail and declare that this struggle has come to a point where we can no longer be suffering, and then he'll be the leader at ground zero, and then he'll take up with Crisano running around the world to put refugees together, to make sure that we're all united so that they can go in a windowless house somewhere.
That's exactly the phase we wanted to enter. That's exactly the phase I think we're going into right now. And I think we should start with this exceptional writing from Fredley Muzangta, the Soul Searcher, which we have crystallized it. I'm borrowing your diction, and we have it now in audio visual. So let's listen to it. Do I think it's important? And I thought it was of prime because our people still do not understand election, war, constitutionality. But Fredly Muzanta spoke like you. It's like he consulted you and consulted the president, consulted some heroes in this struggle to put together these words. Perhaps after we listen to these sound words from Fred Muzanta, or we'll have Amazonians bringing in their questions in this delight so that you can answer and we wrap up today. So I'm calling on those who are watching us on Facebook. You can start typing some of your questions in the comment section as you're watching. Get ready to call in and talk with the Secretary of State for question right after this video.
For the first time in our editorial, we'll be having a comprehensive article by the soul searcher Fredly Muzanta, which he titled Emergence or Consensus, Not Elections. Revolutionary leaders are never elected, they rise, emerge, or are chosen amongst equals through consensus. This is so because the revolution usually starts in the mind of one person. The mind that conceives it is best placed to start it. The next available option is for those who sat down to conceive a project to choose from their ranks the one usually referred to as the best among equals to lead. Now, when the GCE board was created under much pressure, the question arose regarding who should be the pioneer registrar. While even the initiators of the board were confused, looking for some more impressive PhD holder to head it, Achidi actually knew otherwise, having foreseen the obstacles and challenges that the baby institution would face. He convinced the advocates and champions of the board to have one of them nurse the board. That's how Azongwara emerged as the pioneer registrar. The Awande government, as expected, did everything in its power to stifle the new board, but Azongwara, driven by passion and the dedication and love of a queen who had just given birth to the potential heir to a converted throne, knew exactly what to do to make the institution stand. Now, during biblical times, Pharaoh, faced with unprecedented drought, hunger, and strife, did not need to cast lots to know that he by whom God had revealed the solution was the best candidate to put at the head of his crisis government. The great Pharaoh did away with many of his attributes to enable Joseph rise and reign. Why? His empire and people were in peril. Consensus choice is the best way to choose a leader in the situation where the chieftains of several movements in a revolution seek the top job. If they truly are out for the good of the people, it will not be difficult to agree on who the face of the revolution should be from among them. Many considerations come into play, the foremost being who carries the masses. Popular support was what informed partisan Wilfred's choice as SCACF's Secretary General during the Second Conclave. Other considerations may include charisma, knowledgeability, and geopolitical sensitivity. The last geopolitical sensitivity was what informed the choice of Dr. Common Sense, Samuel Ikome Sako, as acting president following the Nera Hotel abductions and subsequently by consensus as president. God since gave Dr. Sako other competencies to confirm the truth that whom God elects, he justifies. Whenever the supposed revolutionary leaders cannot agree on who leads from their midst, you will find out that lust, thirst for power, and ego are the impediments. These weaknesses, when they come into play, never work for the good of the people, and those who allow themselves to be animated by these traits are never genuine leaders. In the light of the above, one would expect that the Kometa Abongwa Anu group, currently led by Iya Marianta, would sit down and agree on who should be leader. Why is this not happening? It is because they are a group of scheming, plotting, greedy and treacherous individuals. The liberation of Amazonia is not their preoccupation. The only logical thing to expect from them is that which gathered them together in the first place: falsehood, treachery, stabbing, backstabbing, and thievery. These are currency in the jungle, and the only way to survive therein is ruthlessness. The only hindrance to bloodletting among this gang is the distance separating them. Let us review how some of our leaders came to the fore. Gorji Dinka, the father of Amazonia, was not elected, yet nobody has ever dared to gainsay his position, even with his age. Amazonia was first conceived in his mind, and so he had the privilege to nurse the baby until it could get up and walk. This His Majesty did with the patience of the mother who knew what was at stake. This included nursing the baby in the wilderness. His legitimacy came from the righteousness of the cause he started, not from those he sought to liberate. All movements and faction leaders hold him in the highest, even if some do so out of hypocrisy only. His name is held in absolute reverence whenever it is mentioned. Now let's see Tesang Wilfred. He was elected by teachers as their union leader. He emerged as the mouthpiece of all the others' union, naturally because his union conceived the project, and also because Katu controlled the highest number of teachers. Ambazonians queued behind him because of his charisma, courage, and proven integrity. In Ibis Hotel, Nigeria, the big well-known elders of the struggle, amongst whom were SCNC chieftain Mfongala, Carlson Ayangwe, Elvis Kometa, and more, agreed amongst themselves for Tesang to lead because they acknowledged the euphoria around his person, which euphoria the revolution needed to capitalize on. Now that was sublime consensus, major leaders, each one of them with a legitimate claim to leadership, casting their crowns aside to bow to a new fight for the utmost good of the cause. One would think that this great example would guide us all along. Now Julius Ayuk Tabe. At the third conclave, Ayuk Tabe was chosen by acclamation and consensus. The election that was scheduled did not take place. No objection was raised when Patasang Wilfred decided that the newest arrival in their midst should lead. This happened in the presence of two undisputed legendary advocates of Amazonia, Umfo Ngala Umfo of the SCNC and Augustine Faye Ndangam of Scapo. These two men, ripe in age, filled with wisdom, and most knowledgeable in the matter of the day, deserved more than anyone else to be conferred leadership. But they did not put forth their candidatures. All they cared about was building on the momentum of the time to ride to Boya. Ayuk Tabe was therefore a consensus choice. Though the expression was not used, Julius Ayuk Tabe was motivated by geopolitical sensitivity. His emergence was timely, as it probably needed a big title, Siseko from Manu to counter the rising traitor, the emasculated Felix Abobala. Ayuk Tabe became the first president when the governing council was transformed into the interim government at the fourth conclave. Once again, there was no election to that office. Patasang Wilfred and others who had genuine reasons to object chose not to do so for the sake of maintaining a united front. Once more, a consensus was arrived at without the word being pronounced. Perverse and accidental leaders do not understand this, neither will they. Now, President Samuel Ikome Sako rise to prominence, first as acting president and then as president, was more out of consensus than elective. An early election was set aside by the college for him to emerge. Just imagine that this didn't happen. Chris Anna, the deal bringer, would have dealt us a very raw deal long ago. The choice of Samuel Ikome Sako is yet another proof that geopolitics and not necessarily longevity or any other competencies, though they matter, counts for a lot in the Amazonian revolution. To depart from it will be suicidal, perhaps as suicidal as the attempt to conduct elections instead of arriving at a consensus. If you ask me to pass valid judgment, I will say that Amazonian leaders in the vast majority have exhibited a high degree of maturity during the struggle so far. In selflessness and disinterestedness, we have seen these at the highest levels. Elders have transferred their crowns to boys in order to make sure that nothing stands in the way of a cherished dream. Bad seeds have never lacked in causes like ours, though. Through courage, determination, and rugged steadfastness and dedication, we will deal with them as we go along. Now, in conclusion, elections are not what a revolution like ours need, Bo Herbert and Morris tried imposing this on the struggle in 2017 but failed. Conducting elections can be very hazardous. If that were possible, would the United States of America not have done so in the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic? What the President Gang's high priest, F.ASCE, plans to organize will be an insult to the concept of popular elections. How much legitimacy will that confer on the cabal? Absolutely nil. What if La République du Cameroon, as we expect, works behind the scenes and influences the gullible bunch to vote their choice candidate? Even in the netherworld, the gang leader is not elected. He emerges either by the size of his biceps or by the speed and dexterity of his hand on his Smith & Wesson. The Kometa Abongwa Anu band is not obsessed with the idea of having a legitimate government or the practice of democracy. They are involved in very high treason. Fortunately, Ambazonia knows better and has chosen well. We've come to the end of this very comprehensive article from the soul searcher Fredly Muzanta, and also the end of our editorial for today. If you want more of such articles, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Become a part of this winning strategy, subscribe and become a club member today. Find our payment details on your screen. I am Star Smart, reporting for Undaunted ABC Amber TV.
Okay, we're back.
Right.
Yes, Doctor. That was inclusive.
Very much indeed. Yes.
So
Yes.
we now get into the final point of the discussion when Ambazonians are all waiting. I know they're waiting. Those who are waiting to beat now. Whatever they want to say right now, there's a presidential candidate. There's a presidential candidate who says he wants to unite every Ambazonians, but has already decided his group. You have the Canadian axis, the US axis, the Marianta axis in Europe. And we got some interest points. We now understand that 40,000 US dollars of the money stolen from the National Treasury went into the accounts of Marianta, and 20,000 went into Nanchop, and there is a fight of money. So Richard Tengo, he's gone his own direction. There's a lot of things. If you want to comment, just go ahead. But there's so much for you to comment on that has to do with purported elections and the thief-free. I like War Child. War Child calls them Thief United.
Right. I'm going to use one word. And I mean, it just bothers me. I mean, it shows really some level of desperation on the side of La Republique, who they think they can take somebody, put him behind bars, supposedly, but train him, give him instructions how he can come out and deceive an entire 8 million people. There is one word when it comes to politics. That word is trust. Of all the candidates that Ambazonians have looked into, checked their character, checked the way they address the issues of the day, checked the way they address the problems on the ground, how they are funding this this revolution. Whom among them do you trust? Is it Abdul Karim? Is that the person now that everybody will say, oh, this is the person who has the interest of Ambazonians in his heart? Why is La Republique doing this? Desperation. They know Ambazonians don't trust it, but they just believe that maybe they can make it. It started with Banque. Hypnotized Ano, Chris Ano, and then Marianta, and then Paul Tasson, and then Diongute. And when I see these people behaving this way, it also confirms the fact that neither does Diongute nor Paul Tasson understand the elements of good politics. Because even they themselves are not trusted in the La Republic government. They are not trusted. So obviously, somebody who is not trusted, how can you look for another person who is trusted? They think that we are ruled by untrustworthy people. Maybe for the first time, I'm going to disclose to him. Ambazonians know how to select leaders whom they can trust. They have imposed leaders on us for the past 60 years. And it just dawned upon them that we are mature people and we know the people we can select to lead us. And I'm sure that they've come to the realization that they cannot impose their opinions on the interim government. It is that simple. And that's why they're trying to concoct this plan behind the scene. In the next couple of days, you are going to see, they will release Abdul Karim. And he will come and he will sing a totally different song. Who's Abdul Karim? What has he done? And they will try to connect with the emotions of Ambazonians. They don't know that Ambazonians are serious about these issues being resolved once and for all. Anybody taking instructions from La Republique only knows that we are going to come back to this problem within the next 5 to 10 years. Because that's what we've seen since 1961. Just watch what happened to Bengui. They shut down one shop and everybody shut down. That is the spirit of Ambazonia. So let La Republique be informed that if you think you are going to crown a leader behind maybe a rundown building in Volio, thinking that you're going to impress us, I can save you the energy. Don't bother. Nobody's going to listen to you. We've been on this road for 6 years and we are ready to take one more year. 1 year at a time. 1 year at a time. I think that's the message I have.
Secretary Mungwa.
Wait, just a minute. Let me finish this. I want to remind the ARFs that Ezor Mvondo Simon. Yes, they are working on that plan to surprise us. That's all they've got. So be ready. Don't forget it. They are working on that plan. I have all the information to prove to you that they are working on this plan. And in the next couple of days, when I get additional information, I'm going to let you know. Please, dear ARFs, dear Ambazonians, be watchful of any strange behavior in your LGAs. We were able to track those who came to the Mancon Palace and they fled for their lives. That is the first result. I'm happy to tell you. But they have not given up. They have not given up. I just want to make this clear so that you don't think that they have given up. They have not given up. In as much as it's been a public embarrassment to all of them, they are not giving up because that's their last tool, the last tool in their toolbox. Over to you.
I want us to believe for 1 minute that Abdul Karim's arrest is genuine. It's not staged. Let's just try to believe for 1 minute. Ambazonians listening. But look at the atmosphere. The last time he was arrested, because of what Ambazonians thought he was, there was an outrage. There were campaigns on every social media, people having to advocate for his release. And there's just some lukewarmness, there's some quietness. Even if it is a fraud, Ambazonians are not participating. So if that is their objective, it is not even working. Now, why? Because a few days ago, this same man that took out his time insulted the president terribly on social media, on trivialities, trying to a ghost town by employing FACO. That was an insult to the president, narrowing down the fact that the president could probably be a president of FACO, not a president of Ambazonia. And it was a debacle. Now, Abdul Karim is the same person, this same president, is what they say, avocado, just against every doubt, let me advocate for him. You heard the president's speech on Saturday. He launched it by highlighting Abdul Karim in spite of this insensitivity. What is the lesson you think we can learn from what you call a transitional leadership of Dr. Sako?
Transformational leadership of Dr. Sako, yes.
Transformational, sorry.
Yes, transformation. Well, that, yeah, fine. Listen, this one of the qualities of President Sako is that have you ever? He never insults people. In as much as everybody else has taken him as the punching bag, he has no reason to insult anybody because he doesn't gain. It's a loss. It's a sign of immaturity, poor leadership qualities. He has done things that none of the leaders who claim to be defending Ambazonia have done. None of them. Because he understands that fighting for Ambazonia is far more fruitful than insulting other leaders. Because eventually he may have to sit down with these people on the same side of the table. And how regretful will it be to realize that the person you were insulting may be the person who will eventually free Ambazonia? He's aware of that. This is a seasoned politician who understands the nooks and crannies of this revolution. What gains do you get from insulting people? You can see how Chris Ano has insulted himself out of the government.
And then he arrogantly insults himself out of the Cooper's camp. And
Absolutely.
I like what UN says that tomorrow Ambazonians will be live with exclusive discussion. UN, myself, and Watchai, and we will broken down for language owner understand. So he kicked himself out by dropping a call from JK. JK just got offended and like, you are not different from.
The same people.
He wants to unite people. His caption for campaign is Amazonians need to be together. And how paradoxical it is in your campaign and mechanism, you are dividing everybody. It's a paradox.
No, well, I will not look at it that way. Since they want Amazonians to be united, let them come back and join us. It is that simple. I'm happy that
go join their LGAs.
That's what I mean. They join their LGAs. I think that is a very, very lofty idea. It's wonderful, and I agree with them. Okay, let us come together. Come back to the fold. You have demonstrated that you don't have anybody that can lead you to anywhere, and you don't expect us to dismantle a system that has been proven to work. Come back and join us. Come back home. And I'm really asking those who have now realized that they were misled by Marianta and by Chris Ano because they really believed in their message. I have never heard Chris Ano or Marianta talk about the personal contributions that they've put into this revolution. It's always about getting money, getting it from somewhere. I've never seen that personal contribution. If they wish to challenge me, let them come and I'll show them how much I've paid in this revolution since 2016. I'll prove to them. And this is what Ambazonians should be asking them. Not only about taking people's money and doing something with it. I would like to see them do an audit. I want Dr. Metuge to come and do an audit of the Marianta Ano camp, and they show Ambazonians that they do what they say. Somehow the idea of audit has disappeared in their lexicon. But yet, when you talk to ordinary people, they keep talking about my trip to Boya. You ask them, but you decided to join the Marianta Anno team. Have you asked them to do an audit? Where is the audit? I want to see it. Richard Tango, please come and do an audit of the Marianta camp. You were the people who led that team to tear away from the interim government. I want to see an official audit done and presented to Ambazonians. Period.
When you were talking on the transformational leadership of Dr. Sako and his ability to accommodate arrogance, you see, it took only Dr. Sako to have an ANU in a system where with responsible people like you for close to 4 years. Marianta couldn't bear with him after 6 months. And it brings me back memory lane, few months after the failed coup that was planned by Cho Ayaba in Washington, because I participated as part of those who organized it in 2018. And we were on a platform with President Sako, all the Vimbangwes and all these women talking like the ladies in Minifem. And Cho Ayaba made a preposterous statement about Dr. Sako. I never forget. On that day, that was the first day, I spoke to him very aggressively. They were mentioning something and he undermined. I might not quote him word verbatim. And he said, when you want to talk about liberation leader or self-defense, don't even talk about Sako. Because Pastor Sako is not a leader. So he felt so lofty. And this is the loftiness that Anu feels that he cannot submit under leadership. And Dr. Sako really did not even respond. He actually responded to a message that was supportive from Bohebet. I'm saying these guys, all of them at the time, the only person on that platform, that was quiet at the time was Akwanga, Dr. Akwanga. Akwanga was unhappy with the way the V-Bangwis were behaving, because at that time their act was already failing. Their reboot, the consequence of their reboot conference and act was already failing. So Akwanga was already withdrawing from it. He didn't speak. But all the leaders, you had John Baakuru was acting. The president, if he listens to this, he wonder that I have this memory. But John Baakuru was a supplanter, a two-side collapse. He was trying to act as though he was for Dr. Sako and Cho Ayaba, and just talking nonsense. He talks a lot and talks foolishness. But this is how insultive, undermining Cho Ayaba was. Now let's look at the results, because that's where I'm heading to. I'm not interested in his dirty talk. Let's look at the results when it comes to liberating the nation of Amazonia in terms of diplomacy, in terms of the home front. Cho Ayaba has killed his own people more than, I think, Buthelezi didn't even break his record. Those he purportedly claims are his people. You want to talk on that, sir?
I think putting so much time on Cho Ayaba is a waste of time and space. For the past 2 weeks, we've seen exactly the outcome of this relationship with La République. That ended with almost 20 or more of his followers. I'll call them followers because these are not soldiers. 20 of his followers. It's almost like a cult. Killed. And he has said absolutely nothing. It is an embarrassment. And I really wonder what those who survived and the families of those who died, what are they thinking about Cho Ayaba? Is this somebody that will ever welcome in Amazonia? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Cho Ayaba has demonstrated from the killing of Chacha, when they connived with La République du Cameroon, and the equipment used, guns, standard issued guns from Serbia, including all the equipment from bombers to everything that was recovered. That was La République du Cameroon in collaboration with Cho Ayaba and the ADF. And recently, we saw what happened in Batibo. All these actions are well documented. And remember, the American lady, I don't know whether she's American or British, who came and made a really serious investigation of the connection between the beer and ADF. And it was presented on your television, ABC. She came and made it very clear that they were able to connect the beer and ADF through Ellie Smith. And that weapons were going in both directions, either collected through the DDR or given directly to the ADFs. These are facts. And I wish these so-called La République journalists can present things like that to prove that La République is involved in the killings. Not staging some sort of a kangaroo interview to give a different impression about the regime. We know all that. We are not stupid. And the facts are there. If they want to prove us wrong, let them come to the negotiating table and the facts will be unfolded in front of them. They have a rap sheet longer than the Senegal River. We'll come to it when the time comes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I've been following. You know, when you get too educational like this, when you get into the crux of matters like today, it has been a whole day with you, and then Dr. Elat came and gave the tease of it. When you do, the Amazonians get so sweet about it. So somebody just wrote, I said, greetings, I wish to inquire about school. I got the information that a lockdown is coming up from Monday the 5th and that no schools will go on. How true is that? I've not heard that, but the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, the man that is the mouthpiece for every Amazonian is live, so he should be telling us.
I mean, I think I cannot, I mean, I'm the mouthpiece of the government, but when the Secretary of State here as the head of a portfolio, I think her words are equally as heavy or as qualified as me. I can only regurgitate what she says and nothing more. And it's very clear. We've made it very clear. The government will really want to have kids go to school, but the security conditions are such that we have to advise parents, because ultimately the parents have to pay their fees or their tuition. The parents have to feed them. They have to evaluate. I call that situational awareness. They have to get there. We have always cautioned them that if you are sending your kids to school, you should know what the potential outcome can be. The Cameroon military has used our kids as target practice for quite some time. And this is well documented. This is well documented. So I want parents to be aware of this. We are not in a position where we can provide the security and the safety that they so desperately need. And that's why we need parents to be very cautious. They should be very careful sending their kids to school, because La République always uses that as as a way to inflict more pain on our people. So we should be very, very cautious. And that's why through the Secretary of State for of Education, we are requesting the international community, UNESCO, to provide some sort of assurance or create a buffer zone such that kids can go to school without a fear of being killed or being harmed. And that's the position of the interim government. This has been the position of the interim government for the past 6 years. And I think every time this issue comes up, we've always made it known. It's a shared responsibility. It cannot be entirely the interim government. I cannot be entirely the parents. It's shared responsibility. And our position is that we need to ensure safety. And we can only get safety if the international community can intervene. And I hope that this is something that the international community is listening to us and can help us get to a point where our children can go to school safely.
Yes, today I have brought to you a lot of things that you didn't want to get involved, but you cracked them down and Ambazonians are satisfied. I'm sure Kemi Ashu is smiling, and some activists who think that though you will not want to waste airtime and space to talk on some of these things, they feel that we have to talk on them. We are satisfied. And when you see Ambazonians preferring to write than call, is because they have been very satisfied. You have, I must honestly say that tomorrow or on Thursday during the news time, we'll have to review some of the things you have made. Your statements are policy, your statements are setting the pace. You heard Star Smart actually saying today that Amazonians look up to Tuesday for us to discuss. This is an amazing program. We'll be having a rebroadcast of this program 6 a.m. Amber time tomorrow on all our platforms except on the social media. We're having it at we'll have it by 3 p.m. for some of the people, some in Europe, to be able to watch. Before tomorrow evening, you would have watched this very special outing of Dr. Mungwa at least 3 or 4 times. It's so important, and we want Cameroon to listen to it. You saw Kemi Ashu making an announcement earlier on. Yes, it is strategic, it's important. The colonizers are now speaking in English to deceive us, and we want to play. We're not just playing their card, but we think it's important for Ambazonia to communicate in every language, in the major languages of Spanish, French, and everything. We got some people trying to against it. It's short-sightedness. So the Secretary of State is going to talk on that right now as the last.
Yeah, it's beautiful for them to speak in English. They have to understand this legal document. It's important. It's not just speaking English like a parrot.
Yeah.
The reason why Ambazonians, we call ourselves Ambazonians, because it is not just the ability to speak English. It's to understand the legal implication of being so-called English speaking. It goes deeper than just being able to. Otherwise, you can call a parrot an Anglophone. Because if you say to a parrot good morning, the parrot will say good morning. And I get a feeling that you can associate the parrot language mastery to La République. La République just wants to mimic those words. I'm Anglophone, and you think that is enough. They're literally parrots. If they were real Anglophones, they should have been fighting to question the U.S. ambassador on the content of this document and the implication for them and their future. That is what they should be doing. They should go to Parliament and tear this document apart and find out what is the American legislation. What do they mean by the statements that they have written in this document? That is what being an Anglophone is, or being an Ambazonian. The Anglophone in the right sense of the word. Not just because you can mimic a few words in English and French. People like Dion Kute, I don't know where they got their law degrees. If I thought they're lawyers, I think they must have got it from Inam. Have they seen this document? Why are they just sitting and not doing anything? Philemon Yang, is he a lawyer? They should be concerned since this document was issued on the 1st of January 2000. Have they looked at it? That
Dr.
is what
Mungwa, this is just Dr. Mungwa. I think our target is not to ask if these people have seen. This is just one of the documents that they are despising. The Banjul declaration, they have it in their archives. They come to understand. Our target here is to emancipate a society that has been brainwashed for too long, and some of them get into battles they do not even understand. Some of them, I understood it when I was advocating for the Cameroonians that were released in the detention center because of the Cameroon. I think you know a little bit about that. And they were Francophones. Some of them do not even understand. One of them even said, we were not colonized by Britain. That we were not under a British. So he used the word in French, and I understood what he was saying. I took out time and educated him, and he started crying. He started crying because he was one of those that have insulted us. You know? So Kemi Ashu made a publicity that we need to talk in French. I think we will have to do it.
We are taking so much burden on ourselves. It's like a chicken trying to carry a cow. And I mean, I'm not there to micromanage your programs, but I would like to see the positive aspect that you're going to bring in order to start doing your broadcast in French. Remember that you're probably going to make a part of Ambazonia very unhappy because a lot of them don't understand French, and for good reason. Why should they? It's an inferior language on the international scene. In as much as, yeah, well, I don't mind people speaking French, you really have to give a justification. After we've been pulled away from La Republique because 99% of the programs are in French, we come and establish an English television, and then we start broadcasting in French. Please think about that. I'm not imposing on you.
Okay.
Think about it.
That's a necessary debate, and we think we will have to examine it. Should we have a slot where everything that we are saying is translated by a French Cameroonian to the Francophone people, or should we just leave it all alone, whether they understand it or not? Should we leave it all alone?
Well,
Is a necessary debate.
If a La Republique citizen recognizes that whatever we say here is of importance to their audience, yes, we can give them the copyright to translate and educate their people. But for us to take our resources to start translating things to them is totally improper. And I don't think I can allow that sort of budget to go ahead. We cannot do that. They have to fight their own battles. They have to fight their own battles. That's totally uncalled for. There are many Amazonians, including me. I understand the French language very well. I will go and whatever they present, I will listen to. I don't see somebody from La Republique taking something in and then translating and giving it to me because they have an interest in me understanding that. What for? We've been doing this housework at it for too long. We are fighting our battles. They have theirs. And they should look for ways to look for resources to fight their own battle if they want to liberate their country. I don't think that should be done. Over to you, Paddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, SOS, for that great contribution there. We have exhausted our time on air, and I think this juncture, you may want to give your closing remark while we call it a day.
Thank you, Paddy. It's been a very exhaustive and very fruitful conversation with you and Ambazonians. Dear Ambazonians, dear ARFs, I'm here once more to talk about the issues of the day. And we talked about a lot of things that are of interest to you. And I cannot go away without making an emphasis on the threat to our existence by La Republique du Cameroon thugs. And I keep saying this Major Brigadier General and this general who have taken it upon themselves the responsibility to destroy us, to kill as many people as possible, with the hope that they are going to make Abdul Karim and Chris Anu the leader of the Ambazonians so that they can go somewhere in Volier and decide on our future. We have to be watchful. It is serious. And make sure that when you meet, you all meet each other, you have to remind each other that this is a very critical time. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank all those who came to the Ngokutunjia draft last Saturday. It was a remarkable event. And I'm so pleased that despite the difficulty, despite the fact that we have been funding different counties, up to now, people were still able to come and give something to Ngokutunjia. And I also take the opportunity to thank Field Marshal Sagon. This is a real military leader. You could see the way he commanded his troops. You could see the ability, his mastery of communication, and the ability to impress on us all. I'm so thankful. I also thank all the Ngoktunjians. You have shown resilience in front of the La République de Cameroon terrorists. You have been supporting our restoration forces since the beginning of this war. And again, on behalf of the interim government, I want to say thank you to you all. I wish you the best of times, and I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Motherland is such a paradise. How long before we realize? Savannah and Sahara unite, light up one big firelight. We dancing through the night. Landa with the lodging lador. With the matching changing na. Oh, changing. Gio. Gio. The rivers will never stop to flow. The mountains will always keep our gold. So let us dream alive. Nyovabena with the Mayua, Mshiyajima, freedom of the mind. Afienaru ilafanaku, Afienaru ilafanabu. Idudun from the light up a fire, we getting higher, we feel the power. Oh, Abatia, Verbatia Kongadema, Verbatia Chenga Chenga, Verbatia Yovabena. Oh. Safovira. No. Vikir vitu vena kalimvera. Saddle with pudina. Ay, ay, ay. Abai, ay, ay, ay. With the matching back in the she, Kishiki and the law with your tree. About in your vanilla door, yo. Motherland is such a paradise. How long before we realize?
Okay.